and welcome to another video on the JayBee and Milly channel. Today we're going to be having a chat about who we would cast for the Daphne and Velma book if they were to be made into a live action adaptation, be that either a series or another one of the live action movies that hopefully would be able to finally complete the trilogy, as the first two tried to, and there is the 3 books here.
So we're going to have 3 sets of fan cast today. We're going to have, in no particular order, we've got JayBee Milly, and also, as you can see from the screen, the author Morgan Baden. So it's going to be cool to get that kind of dialogue and discussion sorted. So yeah, if you have personal fan casts of yourself, please comment them down below. Bear in mind, this is going to be a fan cast of the gang as they appear in the book series. If you do have a fan cast for a new live action movie in general, or if you want to weigh in the comment section down below, we would love to hear. And of course, if you do want to, we'll make a video about that as well. So yeah, we hope you enjoy the rest of the video.
Okay, so as we're kind of saying in the intro, both JayBee and I gave thoughts to who we would cast, and also Morgan Baden doing the same. Now, I'll admit, for me, I haven't kept up on any TV at all, for years. My kind of era of viewing was probably Disney Channel 2012-ish. Hence why you can take a look at the screen now and see, you know, my kind of thoughts on things. So, like I say, I lived on Disney Channel, and Bella Thorne in Shake It Up, for me, would be a great Daphne. JayBee?
Yeah, you know, I think because we're doing, the Morgan Baden stuff, I almost think that outside of that, Bella Thorne would be a good choice even today, depending on how old they wanted to go with the gang. Because she still looks youthful, she's got Daphne's look, she's got her kind of look about her. I think, and again, people would say, oh no, because she's primarily from online and stuff. But if you look at movies like The Babysitter, for all that's not going to be winning her any Oscar award nominations anytime soon, it does show that she's got some type of skill and timing in terms of acting and a willingness to improve. So I think Bella Thorne works in kind of your fantasy casting, in terms of age down. But I think if we were doing a video on the gang today, like a new 2002 movie, I think Bella Thorne would be good for that as well.
That's quite interesting. I mean, I guess you're right in saying that, because ultimately, again, no spoilers, but the 3rd book gets dark.
Oh,
it does. So sometimes perhaps having this older cast could be quite interesting. And like I say, I just think looks-wise, she's a perfect fit, you know, the hair and everything. And also, just from the characters we've seen her play, I mean, Daphne can, at times, I love Daphne, favourite character by far, but she can come across as a little bit spoiled, and we've definitely seen, like I said, the kind of thing that came to mind for me was Bella Thorne in Shake It Up, where she kind of definitely used to get in her own way, and when she doesn't, she comes up with an elaborate plan to make sure her own way happens. Okay, so moving on to the second person, this does actually break my rule of me saying Disney Channel in 2014. Because I think Millie Bobby Brown can certainly add a dynamic to different characters. I mean, for all we've seen, and probably the first thing that jumps to mind, Stranger Things, I was kind of thinking more along the Enola Holmes line as well. Certainly kind of knowledge beyond her years kind of vibe. And I think the picture below actually summarises a really good Velma.
Yeah. See, I don't dislike Millie Bobby Brown at all. And again, Enola Holmes was fine. But I think for me personally, I've not really seen Millie Bobby Brown doing anything rather than whinging and just holding a hand out to the screen and screaming. That's kind of been the default for Eleven and Millie Bobby Brown. That I think she could do it, and definitely, right, if she was in it, I would almost go as far to say as the money that it would have made, not double it, but I don't think it would be too far off. I think there's a lot of fans, Stranger Things fans, Millie Bobby Brown fans, that would instantly flock to the movie if she's involved in it in any way. So, I don't know, I think for me, because Velma's the character that I care the least about, I want to say that if they just need to cast someone who's going to be a big name to draw people in, if that means that Scooby is more legitimized, if it means that movie 2 is more likely to happen, then I think I'm all for that. It's just a case of, I think she does have the skill to do it, but I would wait and, if it was announced, I would wait and see before really making a judgment.
Okay, so my thoughts again with her, I guess, is that I think the Daphne and Velma books isn't your standard Velma adaptation. It's not just a clever know-it-all. It's kind of like an edgier Velma, you know, even look-wise, you know, you find out about like blue, she's got blue in her hair, wears combat boots and stuff like that. Like, I do think she would give a new edge to the character, and I think maybe that was kind of my thought process with that. But moving on to the next one of my kind of Disney Channel like things I like to watch was Teen Beach Movie and a little bit of Austin and Ally as well. And in watching those, I think Ross Lynch certainly looks like the perfect Fred, from the blonde hair and just the outfit they're wearing here as well, with the blue shirt with white detailing and that kind of thing. It certainly appears to be a great match for Fred. But I think if you kind of look at movies like Teen Beach Movie and stuff, he plays characters well that's kind of trying to be friends with everybody, which, you know, Fred mainly appears in like the party scenes and stuff, the Daphne and Velma book. So again, that kind of character where you can fit in with everybody, one that comes across as very outgoing, and also that, you know, perhaps looking more into standard Fred trademarks, always is kind of the person with the plan, the main character, and in charge of some form of direction.
So here's the thing. I like the photo that we've used because there is a photo from the 2002 movie of Freddie Prinze Jr. where he's pretty much wearing the exact same thing, doing the exact same pose, doing like the exact same look. So I do definitely see them as being some type of Fred. Like, I'd be curious to know what they look like now, because like with Bella Thorne, I think that both Bella Thorne and Ross Lynch today would be almost perfect live action Scooby casting for, you know what I mean? Like, if they even tried to do a Scooby-Doo 3 to follow on from Monsters Unleashed, but the original cast didn't want to come back, like, very interesting. It's very, very interesting.
I mean, just to kind of get your thoughts, I'm trying to find a picture of them now. I think they certainly appear to have gone more into prioritizing music to acting. But I think this is one of the latest pictures on their Twitter.
They're a bit crazy looking, a bit wild, but definitely they're Fred-like then, so they could surely be more Fred-like now. Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. So
I
yeah.
mean, I'm scrolling through. I've put in specifically for this year, and I can still kind of see it a bit.
I mean, with both him and Bella Thorne, it seems like there'd be quite a musical mystery.
Certainly, and that leads us on to Shaggy, because ultimately there was a couple of episodes of Hannah Montana where Mitchell Musso too was a great singer. So this is the person that I chose, again sticking with the Disney Channel vibe. I'm very sorry, I genuinely didn't watch anything beyond Disney Channel growing up, and I've not revisited it for a while to understand any kind of newer cast either. So Mitchell Musso as Shaggy, they always kind of played the goofball character a little bit. They certainly shared the love of food, and I don't know, it's just a character I always really enjoyed watching. And from the Daphne and Velma book, Shaggy's my favourite character, so it had to be somebody who I could keep that investment for. And just again, looks-wise here, I think it fits quite well with Shaggy, the kind of long floppy hair and everything.
Yeah. I don't really have an opinion on them. They look like they could do Shaggy, I guess. They look like they could do, unless with like the red shirt, maybe they could be red shirt Shaggy, who knows?
Okay, so JB, ranking it, I guess, from perhaps what you would deem to be the worst fit to the best fit.
I mean, I think worst fit easily in terms of the Daphne and Velma books. And again, you could almost call this hypocritical in terms of some of the takes that I've had on Twitter. But I think worst Millie Bobby Brown, purely for the fact that in the books 1, 2, and 3, it's made it clear that Velma's meant to be a bit of a Latina character. And if Millie Bobby Brown's Latina, then I'm Chinese, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like that, but again...
I mean, it's funny you should say that, because we did have a mutual friend where whenever there was somebody that was Chinese and your height walked into the lecture room at university, they thought it was you.
But again, like, for Velma, if they do that, I wouldn't be upset at all. You know, if it was like, the Velma, we're doing like, oh, we're doing like Scooby-Doo 3, but none of the cast are returning, maybe it's a prequel. So Millie Bobby Brown, Velma, okay, fine, cool, that's awesome. But the best fit for both, definitely Bella Thorne. I think she looks paying like Daphne, she's got the hair like Daphne, and again, like you say, acting wise, she's got a range. She can do kind of normal and sweet, but also kind of, I guess, spoiled, kind of like the rich girl type of archetype. So she could do both in terms of that. So I think, yeah, definitely a W casting as far as the title characters, Daphne and Velma, yeah.
Okay, so let us know in the comments below from, let's call this set A, Milly's set, which one of the 4 you think is the best fit. I think I agree with JayBee in that Bella Thorne was and still would be a brilliant kind of choice.
Okay, so starting off with Daphne, I put Sophia Lillis from It, Chapter 1 and 2, in this list. And she was also in the series I Am Not Okay With This, which Netflix unfortunately cancelled. So I will admit, there were about 10 other people that I really wanted for Daphne before Sophia Lillis, but I think because I'd kind of organised the age range that I wanted, like, in book 1 they're in school, they're like high school kids, yeah? And so I was like, okay, I'm going to try and make them seem as young as possible, but at the same time not too young. And so when I settled on, I think it was Jenna Ortega, I had my heart set on her as Velma. And so from there, I'd almost maybe got too bogged down with the lore and thought, okay, Jenna Ortega is 19, so that means that everyone else I'm going to try and make around 19 to maximum 22. So I think Sophia Lillis, she's got the hair, she can pull it off from It, but also if you think about It, she can do the girly girl thing, which Daphne can do very well, but primarily in that, she's kind of a brawler, she's a bit rough and ready. And I think for the Velma and Daphne and Velma, she needs to be able to do both, because she's going out of that comfort zone of, look, you know, I'm a rich girl, but at the same time, I'm gonna kind of get involved in a plot that's perhaps a bit darker than the normal Daphne that we're used to.
I am about to sound like an awful human being. For me, she is far too rough to play Daphne. Like, all her characters are very, like... I mean, like, none of her characters are ever, like, that I've seen anywhere, like, great, here's the makeup, here's the heels, and, like, here's doing things in a glamorous way. Like, the characters I've seen her perceive are very much like, I'm one of the boys, one of the lads, and let's go, like, ride a bike and play about in the dirt.
Oh yeah, but it depends on the story, as we know. So for example, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Daphne is traditionally a damsel in distress, but they cast Sarah Michelle Gellar in the 2002 movie, who was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the reverse damsel in distress. So I think because of the vibe of the book, I think it would work better. Again, there were a lot of people that I kind of thought about before, but they were either too old or too young, and so I don't know. I've got a feeling with Sophia Lillis, if they do her right, if she has the look for it, she definitely has the acting. And I think for Daphne, it's the acting more than anything that I'd like them to nail.
I still disagree with you quite heavily, and I'd say, like you say, it's the reverse, but ultimately she, like, Vampire Slaying's never looked better. Like, she had something to work with. I don't feel like I've seen anything to work with here.
No,
but I like being controversial.
We could do. I mean, who knows? Who knows? So, Velma, of course, Latina character, gonna be, like, again, like, we need someone that's kind of trending at the moment, kind of popular. Jenna Ortega is very famous at this point, you know, having come off You, and then what else was she in? She was in something else that I forgot.
Scream.
Oh, she was also in Scream, in The Babysitter as well. She was in that new one that's coming out, the new Addams Family one, Wednesday, the Wednesday series. And because of the Wednesday series, I think especially, that comes across as outcast, which of course Velma very much feels like in the Daphne and Velma books.
Not only that, but I feel like in You as well, she's very kind of independent. It's just her and her sister.
Yeah.
And you often see her on her own, and, like, almost kind of a replica of one of the scenes here where she turns up at a party on her own and she's an intern. And yeah, I can see a lot of parallels. I personally think that this is a perfect choice, JayBee.
She definitely
If you
needs the
hadn't
glasses.
chosen her, I would have.
She needs the glasses, definitely. She needs the glasses, but I think they'd leave her hair alone, maybe. Just give her the glasses, maybe give her hair a trim, and I think we've got a pre-made Velma. And to be honest, again, this is going to be controversial, but I would almost not discount her for an adaptation of The Gang. But, you know, That would be very controversial. Don't really want to get into that. But Jenna Ortega, I think, would be the perfect Daphne and Velma version of Velma. So, the Fred. Honestly, I just wanted a blonde 20-year-old.
He looks like you've ripped him straight out of Twilight.
Yeah, I wanted a blonde 20-year-old. Got nothing else to say about it. He's blonde. We'll just see what he can do. He's a wild card. He's an unknown. Maybe this will be the movie that elevates him.
Prince wasn't blonde before being Fred.
Yeah, I think the people want a blonde Fred, though. Because we've never had a blonde Fred. We've had Prince, we've had a Mel. I don't think we've ever had a blonde Fred.
And Mel, they made the right choice keeping his hair dark. I'm sorry.
Oh, they did, but we'll see.
Okay, I want to get onto your adaptation of Shaggy.
Oh, yeah. So, Wyatt Olaf. Again, this isn't the Zoinks Man Shaggy.
Oh, it is. He looks great.
I don't think Wyatt could do the voice necessarily, but I think he is an absolutely perfect choice for either one, a grittier Scooby-Doo movie, or two, the Daphne and Velma series of books. Because the Shaggy in that, he's kind of a beach boy, right? He's kind of a bit of a player in the fact that not like he's always after women and stuff. He's very much the Shaggy we know and love. You know, he'll invite people to a party, throw the best party in the world, but then spend the whole time in his bedroom with Scooby, eating pizza, watching movies. So it's a different take on Shaggy, but still very much the same. So he has the look for Shaggy. But also, if you think about something of, like, It, he's never been the brave one. He's always kind of been a bit timid and a bit scared. But when his friends are in danger, he's, you know, one of the first to kind of go into danger and risk himself. So I just think this is the best version of Shaggy that we could get. And he's not well known. He's been in It. He's also co-starred with Sophia Lillis in that series. I'm Not Okay With This and It, which is part of the reason why I wanted them both together, because in the books it's quite heavily implied that there's a bit more chemistry between them. And so I was thinking, as long as the Daphne and the Shaggy have chemistry together, I think the core of that storyline works out.
Yeah, but quite often characters that have chemistry, they've never met before the movie.
Yeah, we'll look into that.
But I have to say,
Prince and Geller had definitely more than met before being Fred and Daphne.
Physically and appearance-wise, you've definitely got the perfect Shaggy. I mean, I'd say the way that we stand at the minute, you can disagree. I think I chose the best Daphne. I think you've chosen the best Velma. I think I chose the best Fred, and you've chosen the best Shaggy.
Ooh, but of course there is a third opinion to weigh in here. I'm going to slot in the clip of Morgan Baden kind of verbally telling us her fan cast, and then we're going to break it down.
If, for example, this were to become a series or a movie, because the books are so great and it would really lend well to, say, a live action either series or movie, is there any, you know, any actors that you had in mind either when you were writing this, or if, for example, someone was to approach you and ask if you wanted to help work on, you know, a live action adaptation, that would spring to mind for you?
Yes. Oh goodness, there are a couple of people that spring to mind immediately. For Velma, I could see Xochitl Gomez, who played the first season of Babysitter's Club as Dawn and now is in the Marvel universe. So she's really taken off. And I just think I could see her as Velma so perfectly. I adore her. And it's funny because for Daphne, I went back and forth on this. And then finally, I felt like it was staring me in the face. I'm a big Stranger Things fan. And I feel like Sadie Sink would be an excellent Daphne. And it's not just because of the hair. I think she could really play a teenage Daphne, as she's been written in these books, to a really lovely extent.
Yeah, I think when we were discussing kind of who our thoughts were for Daphne as well, that they were certainly someone that sprang to mind because of the kind of new depth to Daphne here, you know, with kind of what's going on with the family, what's going on with Maddie and all the other things as well, that would certainly lend itself quite well to her.
Yeah. And it's funny, my daughter is almost 8 and she's very into High School Musical, the series. And so I've become familiar with it in terms of like the actors who are on my TV regularly. And the other day I was walking by as she was watching and Joshua Bassett was on screen. And I thought, oh, he could be Shaggy. Like there was just something, this immediate visceral reaction to me of like, I bet he could do a good Shaggy.
I think certainly it'd have to be, I don't know, I feel like actors that, like you say, perhaps really can push these new adaptations that do have more depth to them. So, it would be, a gang like we've never seen them before. And to that end, is there anyone else as well, perhaps say for Fred's character? Because I feel like that one is someone that we've really just started to learn about in the new book and where they can go.
Yeah, I went back and forth with Fred, and then not to land on Stranger Things again, but then I could see Finn Wolfhard playing him. Dye his hair, bleach his hair, but he's got the depth, I think, to be both that, those sort of dualities of Fred, the like very surface level, popular, easygoing guy, but then could dive into someone a little more emotional and a little more secretive.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And of course, he's got the kind of It as well. He's been in It,
Yeah.
the Ghostbusters, so very familiar with the kind of spooky genre. That is absolutely amazing.
Okay, so I think Morgan Baden's really put across some good ideas here. So Sadie Sink was definitely someone who we spoke about quite extensively when we were choosing who we were going to put forward for Daphne.
So I am going to link Morgan Baden in this video and kind of hope and pray that she watches it, because I'm going to be honest. Going into this question, my thing was anyone but Sadie Sink, because I think it's I don't know, this is going to sound stupid, but it's almost too obvious. So we want a young actress, very popular, preferably red hair naturally, or can rock red hair. Sadie Sink is, I think, the only way.
Are you trying to rhyme there?
I don't know. Sadie Sink is the only way to go with that in anyone's mind. You think Daphne, you think Sadie Sink, and for that reason, I'm like, I don't want it to be Sadie Sink. I really don't. But I think there's too much going for Sadie Sink as Daphne that I can't not say that it's perfect, because it is perfect. It's just too obvious for me personally.
I think personally that if we're discounting Bella Thorne because of her age, I genuinely disagree with who you chose. So I'd say that Sadie Sink was ultimately going to be the one that I'd choose out of them all. Because like you say, Bella Thorne was discounted on age, and I just didn't agree with your choice.
I think Sadie Sink has to be the choice for Daphne, in all honesty. But in any Daphne, right? If you're doing a younger Mystery Inc., if you're doing the book adaptation, yeah, it's got to be Sadie Sink. The one thing I have with the books, though, I think should be better with just the gang in general. But if you're going through the books, I don't think I've seen anything she's been in that could sell me on the fact that she has come from a wealthy background, or that she's got what it takes to go into journalism. Because she's always been a very compelling character on Stranger Things, because she's got a bit of a rough upbringing, and her dad's kind of a bit of a waste man. Her brother's like, you know what I mean? She'd have to be very opposite. I think she's definitely got that in her, but it would be very different to what we see.
I mean, she certainly excels with the troubled teen thing.
The
Stranger
photo we're
Things.
using, the real Sadie Sink looks a lot more Daphne than, I guess, Max from Stranger Things. So that's good. It shows a bit of range.
Yeah, I'm going to say Sadie Sink's the perfect way to go. So, next.
You going to pronounce this?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were starting.
You pronounce it. No, I think I know how to say this because I've researched. Xochitl. I think it's Xochitl. Xochitl Gomez. So again, perfectly on point with what we've got with the Daphne and Velma books. Very Latina, and I think popular now. So for people that may look at her face and go, hang on, I've seen her before. So she was recently America Chavez in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And kind of just being MCU in and of itself, I think will bring some attention to it. Will bring some names in, like, you can just see Screen Rant, MCU stars cast as Daphne, and some clickbait thing of like Scarlett Johansson in the thumbnail or something. Like, you can just see Screen Rant running with that. And no shade to Screen Rant, but you know what I mean, like major outlets. I think she may be a bit too young, but like you pointed out, high schoolers nowadays, if you look at a Netflix high school cast, they're like in their 30s.
Yeah.
So it could definitely work, and Velma's always the younger one. I like Xochitl Gomez as Velma a lot. I just think I'd be upset that it's not Jenna Ortega if Xochitl was announced. But again, like nobody knows the Daphne and Velma characters in the books like Morgan Baden, maybe Josephine Ruby, but like she's got one book to Morgan Baden's two books, so I think that if anyone's going to nail the casting of Daphne and Velma, it's going to be Morgan Baden.
Yeah, see, like you say, I don't think we can argue with any of Morgan Baden's
There must be
choices
something
because...
about Xochitl that is it more than Jenna in Morgan's mind.
But I think the beauty of a book is that every single reader sees something different in their minds. They see their own iteration and adaptation. I think this quite easily could be quite a few people's adaptation. For me, I personally don't know much of Doshi, so I can't comment too much, but from this picture alone, she looks almost... I'm perhaps thinking too soft to be Velma. Do you know what I mean? She seems very, like, almost like she could be relatively, you know, quite prim, quite proper, and quite feminine as, like, next to Sadie Sink. I don't think there's enough differentiation that perhaps could be offered by the person you suggested, JayBee, that we see in you kind of having to be more, you know, kind of not rough, but like more independent and that kind of thing. Whereas I think, you know, quite harder as opposed to how like this image where she comes across as quite a soft Velma.
Then again, a part of me wants to think, unless I'm mistaken, that Xochitl's proved more on-screen power than Jenna in that, like, not everyone can be 16 years old and pretty much co-star in a movie with Benedict Cumberbatch and not be, like, drowned out by him. Like, so I think it takes a lot to, like, kind of step up and, like, almost play on an equal footing to someone like Benedict Cumberbatch, who's, like, he's like a legend, isn't he? He's a legendary guy.
I'm coming across as a horrific person in this video. I didn't recognise her.
Well, she looks different in the photo.
No, but, like, I didn't know who she was. Like, you could show me a picture of any still from Doctor Strange and I wouldn't put together it was her character. Her character wasn't like resounding.
Well, I don't
like
think
for
she'd
me
be
it was
getting
like
her own Netflix or her own Disney
no,
Plus
but do you know
show.
what I mean? Like we saw it in the cinema together and everything, but I wouldn't have known her.
But again, I mean, me personally, I think she was quite a cute character, and again, to go along with Benedict Cumberbatch, it takes a lot, even if no one remembers who she is.
Oh, and you had Wanda in that movie as well. Like she was around some, you know, people that really were established in Marvel.
And that takes a lot to do. Probably similar to something that Tom Holland had to go through in Civil War. So, rising star as well. Like if they cast her today, as bad as it sounds, there could be a lot more fame behind her by the time the movie actually comes out.
So are we saying so far our Dreamcast, Sadie Sink, and who is it you chose again for Velma?
My dream, or like my definitive as thus far, is Sadie Sink as Daphne, as painful as that is for me to say.
I like that you've said that yourself.
I have to yield. Sadie Sink, Daphne Blake. For me personally, Jenna Ortega as Velma Dinkley.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So we're moving on to Fred here, and we have Morgan Baden's suggestion of Finn Wolfhard. So, what's your thoughts? Now, I couldn't see Finn as blonde. So I think we're going to looking at another Robbie Amell adaptation where they have darker hair and everything, which I personally don't see as a huge issue, providing you can back it up with like the right wardrobe choices and things to be able to have that colour palette in some way.
I would almost like to deal with Fred and Shaggy personally together, because I want to say Joshua Bassett as Fred, yes. Finn Wolfhard as Shaggy, yes. I think reverse that, and I think we're dealing with a bit more of a different scenario.
I think you're stuck in 1969, you know?
Really?
I do, because I think if you read Morgan Baden's adaptation of Daphne and Velma, Shaggy's a bit of a surfer boy. He's out on the beach, and I just think that that's perhaps more reflected in Joshua than it is in Finn. Like, if you look at Joshua, you can see him surfing on the beach. You couldn't see that with Finn too much.
I can see it a bit with Finn, but you're right. I'm definitely more thinking of, you know, tall, gangly Shaggy versus surfer boy
Kind of a bit
Shaggy.
more slick, because I mean, you've got to remember, this Shaggy pretty much has Daphne hooked.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
that's no mean feat. Like,
yeah.
she's pretty all in with this.
And if I'm Sadie Sink and I see Finn Wolfhard and Joshua Bassett, I think I may be on the Joshua Bassett train in terms of. I mean, you're the lady. These two come up to you in a bar.
They both need to age at least 5 years first.
But no, you're right. I guess, and it's the Finn Wolfhard that I've got to take a bit of an issue with, because I think he's amazing. In Stranger Things, he's great, and in It, he's great. There's so many things he's been great in. What's the other one I'm thinking? Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters Afterlife. Amazing. Fred always needs to come across as a leader, and I don't really get that with Finn Wolfhard. Like in Stranger Things, he kind of is in series 1, but then we're like so many episodes later and he's kind of fallen into the distance.
Yeah, he was in like the third plot line this time, not even the secondary with Stranger Things.
Yeah, and whereas, you know, in Ghostbusters Afterlife, he almost plays sidekick to McKenna Grace, who's the leader. In It, he plays almost second in the group or whatever in the group to Will Denbrough, who was the leader. Or am I thinking of Will Denbrough? Yeah, I am. Stuttering Bill. So, in fact, I want to know what he's doing, because if he has kind of matured a bit, aged a bit, he would not be a terrible Fred leader-wise.
Who's that?
The guy that plays Stuttering Bill in It. The kid version.
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
He was the one that had the bike. He's eventually played... Yeah, no, the special bike. Silver. He was eventually played by James McAvoy. You know, Professor Xavier.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The younger version of Professor Xavier.
Okay, so getting back to Fred, I do think the person Morgan Baden's put forward is a good choice. Like you say, in Stranger Things Series 1, they are a good lead and can really kind of push a group and lead a group. And certainly there isn't the necessity to do that as much here, because I think you see from the kind of flashback scenes, Daphne and Velma were certainly always the ones to kind of rally the group together. But the one kind of qualm I have, or qualm, is that the word?
Qualm, I think. I don't know. That sounds like an urchin. Is
that book 3, Fred's meant to be the movie star. Like, the producer... Hear me out. The producer looks at every guy in town. This famous woman looks at every guy in town, and they're all like, we want Fred.
He's the cutest boy in school.
I couldn't see bringing like Shaggy back into it. If you were to have Finn Wolfhard and Joshua Bassett next to each other, and you're like, okay, one of these is going to be the guy that comes across as quite slick, movie star lead, goes on a date with like one of the main actors in this movie, I'm gonna think you're talking about Joshua.
I want to know if she was based on Addison Rae, you know, the actress, the famous actress, because she was called Addie, wasn't she?
Possibly.
And she seemed, I don't know, sidetrack. Okay. But I think, to your point, has that not already happened in real life almost? Like, I think people would know a Finn Wolfhard over a Joshua Bassett.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the persona, the looking at them and the aura you get. Like, I know, because I feel like I'm insulting people now. This isn't good. I just don't look at Finn Wolfhard and see him as like that.
I mean, he doesn't seem not mean-spirited enough, because I don't think Fred and Daphne and Velma 3 is mean-spirited, but he doesn't seem oblivious enough. Although he's pretty oblivious to Will in season 3, but he doesn't seem oblivious enough to almost lead. Oh god, that's another issue as well. No, do we want to say this is their age in book 1, and then by the time it's book 3, it's, say, Sadie Sink's 23, Zoti is like 19, like, because I was gonna say Finn Wolfhard as a 19-year-old paired with Xochitl Gomez as a 16-year-old's a bit.
I mean, another thing with him is I think just because of his height, he is quite, you know, like the typical Shaggy build.
Oh yeah,
he's the typical Shaggy build. He's really, really tall, but really like thin and tiny as well.
Tall boy.
And so that's always made him look older than he is, because even in Stranger Things, he looks far surpasses 19 in my eyes, in terms of just how he comes across. But just like, again, what I take away from the characters I've seen in play, like, that's a bit of a bad boy. Like, he's getting his flirt on with Velma and then like walks into a party with another girl. I just don't know about that.
How old's Joe Keery? He could be like the kind of...
Can it just be said that me and you have been very complimentary with each other's people? We've been like, oh, you're really complimentary with mine. I started to dig at yours a little bit. And now, because we don't have to be nice to each other, we're kind of going a bit harder with this cast.
Well, no, here's the thing, right? I am, you know what I mean? I'm just a guy, you know, I've got my ideas and that. Whereas, like, I think there's almost more to analyze here, because this is the person that knows these characters in this iteration the best. Like,
We're almost discussing how we've formed our opinions not incorrectly, but away from what was initially perceived.
No, yeah, 'cause this is interesting. This is Mummy, Daphne and Velma.
Okay.
Who we love so much. And so it's so interesting to know that this is, I mean, realistically, right? If this is the definitive cast as people, okay, that's
Yeah, I'm happy with
that
the
should
cast.
be it. That should
If
be
it was
it.
announced tomorrow, this was the cast that came up, I'd be so happy with that. I wouldn't have any
Like,
issues
that should be the
whatsoever.
debate. Like, this is Morgan Baden's list. That's awesome. Like, that's the end. But because obviously, like, if it's her list, it's how they are written in the book. That's just a fact.
Okay.
But it's interesting to talk about it, and I think we have had a good discussion about all these characters.
Okay, so far we're at Bella Thorne with Daphne. You're
Are we at Bellathorn with Daphne?
not Bella Thorne. Sadie Sink with Daphne. What was your person called for Velma?
Jenna Ortega, Velma.
Okay, and for Fred, I'm putting yours in last place, JayBee. Because you didn't even know who the guy was. You just
No,
said
yeah,
blonde actors.
I just wanted a blonde. I wanted a blonde.
I'm putting Finn in second because I think ultimately, they're good. But I think that Ross Lynch does look like a very accurate Fred.
You could be like the kind of book free thread.
Although,
as well,
again,
where
there's
it's a
the age issue. Because I think that's one of the reasons we were at Bella Thorne was kind of age related. And I'm sure he's even older than her, but I just think he looks the part.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't get over the notion of just switching Bassett and Wolfhard around, but like you say, I think maybe I'm just stuck in.
You are,
in
like,
that way.
moving on to Shaggy. He is meant to be that surfer boy in this. Like looking like he spends time on the beach. He has the parties. Like, I think that he looks like a good Shaggy.
Thinking about the book, he is the perfect Shaggy. I think Fred.
You're stuck in
I
where are you?
I think Fred is always the hardest to cast. He will always be the hardest to cast.
Yeah. Like, take a look at The Mystery Begins. The other three are so conventional.
Yeah.
It's like you pick them up out of...
Even Kyoko, like the look of
Yeah.
Kyoko is conventional to
It's
what
kind of
you'd
like
expect
you
from Velma.
picked up the initial idea, brought it into this century, and then dropped it. Whereas with Amel, it's kind of like, we're going to have to take a different path here. They did, and it was the right thing. Fred is the most difficult, but like we say, on to Shaggy, I genuinely think for the book adaptation, Joshua is a perfect fit. I mean, I'm writing out my candidate completely here, but I think between, like, if we're trying to narrow this down to our dream casting, it's 100% between who you chose and who Morgan Baden chose, because I think...
Well, for Shaggy?
Yeah, I think Joshua certainly looks the part here.
I think Joshua Bassett is more Daphne and Velma Shaggy than Wyatt Olaf.
But
I think...
yours, like, the second you see him, it's like, you're Shaggy. You are. Like, even where
and the look of him, like, we don't get his full body, but I mean, look, we're doing a Halloween watch through. It's on our list for tonight. You all know what I mean by his, like, general physique, that he's also Shaggy as well.
Remind me which one he is again?
He is Stanley Uris, who does the speech at the synagogue. Or in fact, maybe that was deleted, but he's the one that goes
Oh,
to the
no, I
synagogue.
do recall that scene, I think. Oh, less so there then. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I just think he looks like him in the picture that you got.
Just watch I Am Not Okay With This again, and he is Daphne and Velma Shaggy in that, because he's cool, he's like chill, he's
I think the thing that sells it for me is just like the facial hair he has on the picture you chose.
No, and that's how he looks in the series.
It literally grows in the places that's and like it isn't there in the places that it's like mirror image.
He's the Shagster.
But as this is, you know, we have to remember that this isn't Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? If it was Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? I'd say him all the way. But I think possibly if we really do focus in on the details and bring this forward, Joshua looks like a very good fit for about 95% of the book. The only qualm I have, again, I'm using that word, don't know why, is in book 3, Joshua just looks like a happy guy. Whereas Shaggy really starts to go through a bit of an emotional struggle in that one. Like, he has an emotional scene, right?
Yeah.
I just think Joshua looks very happy. I don't know if I could imagine him kind of having that inner turmoil going on.
I believe that he will, though, because I think Morgan said that she knew him primarily from High School Musical, the series, and from, you know, what Smash has told us and his reactions, it seems like quite an emotional show. So I've no doubt that if we watched that for research, if he was cast,
It's on my radar to
some
watch.
emotional moments within that he could definitely play off of. But that's just me not knowing really who he is. If he is cast, which I hope he is, we'll do some research and maybe watch High School Musical, the series at some point.
Okay, so I think that does it, JB. This is the dream cast.
I'll flash up after the segment, maybe like a 5-second image of the definitive cast that we kind of came up with. But this is amazing, and thank you so much, because we did ask, you know, Morgan Baden to prepare some type of a list before the last interview, which will also be linked in the description down below as well. So thanks so much for the consideration you took to contributing to this video today.
I'm sorry that we were more critical when we got to your section too, because I think, like JB said, it was almost the point where it was like, you know, when you get your answers back in class, like you do your exam and then you get the answer sheet. And it's almost like, oh, this is where we were wrong with this. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like the teacher's come in and been like, okay, you actually got 0% because none of you got this. Like, I don't know, it was kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, these technically are the right answers. They're technically the right answers.
I think that was a good comparative. I'm quite happy with myself.
Well, I'm a stubborn boy, but I like the list. I think it's amazing.
I mean, Sadie Sink, undisputable, really. And I think Joshua Bassett, once you, like, really worked down as to where it was they were going with this, that was undisputed too.
Oh gosh, that will make Kate Melton the odd one out, being the only live action Daphne whose actress name didn't start with an S.
Ooh,
how crazy is that? Because we've had Sarah Michelle Gellar, Sarah Jeffrey, Sadie Sink, Kate Melton. So an interesting one. So yeah, if you do want to see us, you know, do more fan casts, if there's maybe some that you want us to do about other books, other Scooby things, if you have your own list to both a Daphne and Velma fan cast or a Mystery Inc fan cast in general, then please comment that down below as well. So yeah, we hope that you enjoy, and again, we will kind of flash up a 5-second image of the definitive quote-unquote cast. So yeah, please like, comment and subscribe.
JayBee and Milly.